dry cold. Okay. So I'm going to do a lot of this on PowerPoint, so I'll just turn on the if it works. So who knows what a podcast is? Or is there anybody that doesn't know what a podcast is, basically? Have you all listened to a podcast?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So I'll explain why, next part is actually a description of a podcast for those that don't know. And it helps if this works. I was recently, what Federico said is I travel a lot. And I do a lot of events, listen to a lot of speakers. I'm constantly developing myself. And when I was in Estonia, it was Mind Valley University, and I had the opportunity of learning about podcasting. It was something that I never considered, but after listening to it, I thought, okay, I'm just after finishing a book and I need to get my message out there. And I thought, okay, what's the best way of getting my message out there is through different mediums. And through a podcast is actually one of them. So there's different outlets for a podcast, how you can actually get it out there. And what I'll actually do is, for those that don't, it's basically like what I do is when I'm driving, I don't listen to the radio, I play a podcast. So that it's constantly a podcast, and there's about 3 or 4, I'll give recommendations at the end of the ones that I listen to. But if there's something that you like, for example, Christoph's into app development. If he wants to be one of the best app developers, he can listen to podcasts on that. So if he's going to work or if he's jogging or whatever, listening to a podcast, he has a competitive advantage over his competitor who doesn't. So you're just constantly improving your abilities. So why listen to a podcast? Like with the news, I've got a lovely laser here, I just said I have to use it. Like the news, for those that don't know, whether it's on the radio or the television, is extremely cruel. It's telling you what to believe. And it's extremely negative, and it ain't good for you, because it puts you into the wrong frame of mind. With a podcast, you can actually listen to something to upbeat, positive, and to people that are actually making change in the world, which in turn can motivate you to do the same. The main one is iTunes. You've got 70% is on iTunes, but I wouldn't suggest that you listen to put it onto just iTunes, because you have to, like a SoundCloud, Spotify, you're familiar with the music, because the more that you go out to, the more chance you have of reaching your audience. So, have you considered doing a podcast? Perhaps not. Like, listening to the people that are doing the podcasts, it's like, what's your why? So what is it you're doing? What can you actually make change in? What could you tell people about? What would they be interested in? There's actually ways of making money from this, but I wouldn't make that your reason. The main thing should be your passion. Like, for example, if you've got 50,000 listeners, you can get $7,500 for a sponsorship. And the likes of, say, Tim Ferriss, he's got something like 700,000, and he's got 2 sponsors at the start. So you can imagine the type of money he's making just for that. So it can actually be fairly lucrative if you were looking as a revenue source. So you don't want to just get it out there. If you have fans, they'll promote it for you. So they're the people that totally believe in what you're doing. Like the guy that did the podcast, that actually done the workshop, his name is Amrit, and he's had some fantastic actually people on his podcast. And if you listen to it, by doing like say hashtag and everything, the people that love the people he's interviewed, like he's interviewed a mug, a Monk, Jason Goldberg, all kind of top people. People then that follow that person can see your podcast, and the fans of them can actually start following you because of how you actually come across on your podcast. Oh, what will be your name? There's the Tim Ferriss podcast. Some people have the name, or you can have it relating to your product. So whatever your product is, you can call it your product podcast. Some people do it for say a company, like say Mind Valley. That's one that I follow. So that isn't a person, it's a company, but it's by the founder. And what they do is they've got like their events where they have speakers, they just convert that to a podcast. So the speaker is there, he's doing sometimes on stage talking to the speaker, but he uses it, so he's got it on video and he's also got it on radio for the podcast. Plan 10 episodes. Like, if you decide, if you've an idea to do a podcast, don't just say, oh, I've got a great idea, I'm going to do this and create the first one. Like, you have to think of this long term if you're going to do it. So I would recommend making a list of, preferably have the year down that you're doing, but have at least 10 people that you're going to talk to. So whatever industry you're going for, list out the people that you can do, talk to them in advance. You can have all these recordings done. So for instance, if I was dealing with all of you, we could do all the recordings in a day, whether they're 20 minutes or an hour or whatever, and then release them in the time frame that you want to, whether it's weekly, monthly. So you don't have to do it live. Whether you do it weekly, daily, I wouldn't suggest daily. I don't even know if there's people doing daily, there might be, but they tend to be weekly. And what some people are doing is they're releasing it early on a Monday or on a Sunday night. So it tends to be for people commuting. So if you've got a 30-minute drive, you're listening to that on the drive. And it can be like how long it is. They say 20 minutes to 45 minutes is the sweet spot. But I've listened to ones that have been 3 hours, and there's other ones that can be just 10 minutes. So it depends, and it's better to have quality instead of quantity. So if you find that you've got a brilliant speaker, don't cut it short, break it into 2 episodes. But if you find that it's boring and everything, you need to do some editing because it could affect you. Because you might make an assumption that a speaker is going to be brilliant, and he could actually affect your listing. So what you do is you extract the boring parts and just keep the best parts. Why I was saying ensure the phone is on flight mode, there's a few different things and distractions. Like I was doing a video, it's totally different. I was doing a video recording and there was some guy coming with Orlotki and just kept ringing the bell. That can happen as you're doing it. So you can take your domophone off, put your phone on flight mode, because you could be having, because you can use this phone, you could be doing the recording and then somebody decides to ring you and it can just totally affect everything. Obviously you can stop it and go back, but you're going to do editing. You want to reduce time that you're spending doing these things, so you're better off not having to edit it. That's just an example of how it looks on iTunes. That's the guy that I know, and one that I followed, Inspired Evolution, so you can see the different episodes. And this is another thing as well, is the graphics that you use. You're going to create a graphic for your podcast and make sure it's something that people can read, because sometimes they're creating loads of text and everything. But when it's reduced to a small little icon, the icon that you see on your phone for the apps, it has to be something that people can bear that in mind. Record your podcast, so obviously decent speakers. This device here it will stop your breath and breathing, because that can actually be annoying if you're listening to a podcast and someone is so close to the mic and they haven't got one of these devices. I was looking today because as I mentioned, I'm going to be getting started on this. And on Allegra you've got the full devices there for 870 zlotys, which is about €200. You can even get cheaper. You don't need this device, you can just have the microphone, get a mic, there's a few different ones, and the microphones, you can get a decent one for about 500 zlotys. Same with this. This is like a lot of people, the guy Amrit had done a lot of recordings when we were in Estonia with top speakers, just with his phone. So he put his phone down and he's released them, and the quality is perfect. So you can do it with your phone. So if at the start, if you're conscious of the amount of money that you're going to be spending, just use your phone. If you want to get a bit more professional, obviously you can get the one that I showed previously. Then when you have your podcast, don't just assume people will run to you. It's like opening shop or anything. You need to start promoting yourself. So make sure that you're putting, that's just an example that I got there. So you're going to put it on all your different things, your Twitter, your Facebook, the whole lot, so that people know the name. So every time you're promoting, you're doing your hashtag with your name, and when you're talking to different people, they're showing you the name as well. These are just some of the recommendations of ones that I listen to. Amrit Inspired Evolution. So, for example, he's interviewing a monk, stuff like that. Mind Valley. Joe Rogan Experience is one that goes on for about 3 hours, but again, highly entertaining, so I'd recommend them. And last is have fun, because if you're going to do a podcast and you're not enjoying it, I don't think it will last. Whereas if you're enjoying it, having fun, it'll continue. So now I'm available for some questions if you've got any questions. Show you, like say that's the phone, so just the phone, you just put it on with your recording device here. There's even some apps that are made for it. There's even some devices that will reduce noise. If you want it typed out, you can even send it to rev.com, so you can actually send your recording and they'll type out the transcript for you, so that if you were going to give it to other people.
Yeah, okay, so I have a question. So about the plan. Do you already have a plan of your next 10 or maybe more podcasts?
I actually do, and based on today is I want to do 2 types. I want to do one with the Toastmasters, because I feel I've got a lot out of Toastmasters, so I want to give back. And I want to start interviewing people that I feel have progressed a lot. So I listed the 10 people that I think would be great, and I think that will help all the community, for beginners and experienced people, how to develop, how to get to different levels, where the hiccups were, how to avoid problems in a club. And that, by listening to different people, and I've got people in Germany and different things, will help everyone. So that's one of the ones I'm doing. And the second one was with my book. So I'm constantly promoting my book, even though it's not released yet, and a lot of people are on board. So I've got a list of them people that I will interview, doctors and top influential people, because their audience is who I'm trying to reach. And that's what I'm doing. Anybody else? So I can share that with anybody that would like, and if you have any questions later, I can actually. We have another question.
I was thinking about podcast. How much money I can earn?
Well, if you have 50,000 listeners, you've got $7,500 is what they were paying in sponsorship. In the Polish market, I don't know, but there's definitely money to be made. But like I said at the start, if that's your purpose, I don't know, will it come across? If you come across with something you love and care and want to give a message, that will come. Because the guys that I know that are doing it, they've got huge followings, and they didn't set out to make it as money. It just happened that someone came along and said, hey, can you promote my product? And they're getting a lot of money from it. As well as what happens as well is somebody will give a discount. So they'll say, mention my name. So there's a link. So whether it's a kickback they're getting or just how they promote them as well, because sometimes it's like an affiliate. So if you mention their name, for example, you get a 10% discount. But how that normally works is they could get 30% from that. So you have ways of earning from that as well. Anybody else?
Who is your role model or person who influenced you that you started recorded the podcast?
It's the guy that...
who is the guru of podcast for you?
Well, there's like Vishen Lakiani from Mind Valley is very good. And Amrit, even though he's only doing it about a year, because of his experience and just his passion, and if you listen to him, he's just having fun. He's just laughing and joking the whole thing. So it's new to me, but for me, I will continuously listen to him, and I can reach out to him, so I have access to him to see how he's actually, reaching the audience. So as soon as my podcast is ready, I can learn from everything that he's done, and he'll tell me all the mistakes as well.
Do you already have some podcasts recorded?
No.
Or it's just a plan?
No, it's a plan. But I have the list. So I'll be starting it soon. So yeah.
Is it important that you will record systematically, or it depends on the time, your free time?
No, it depends. Like, you can record when you want, but you're better off actually launching. Like, so if you do it every Sunday where you're putting it up, be consistent with that. Because, for example, if Eric was following you and you were putting it up and then you stopped for a week or 2 weeks, he could lose it, where he'd be looking forward to it. So just be consistent. But what you can do is you can record like 10 episodes in a week, but still just launch them weekly. So you have the 10. So it doesn't matter when you do it. You just need to set time aside for it. Yeah. Okay. So that's my thing. All right. Thank you.